Recording.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, we are gonna call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey to order late at 5:28 p.m. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Chair Hans Buller. Vice Chair Kathleen Ballesteros.
Present.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin.
Present.
Commissioner Maria Orozco.
Present.
Commissioner Kevin Hilly is absent and Commissioner Yuri Anderson are absent.
I'm just getting up my okay, and we're gonna start with comments from the public. I don't see anyone here in person. Is there anybody in Zoom on the Zoom?
No one online.
All right, we are gonna move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved. You approve the consent agenda? And I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Roscoe and seconded by Commissioner Ballesteros. Roll call, please.
Chair Hans Buller.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kathleen Ballesteros.
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Maria Orozco.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes that.
Okay, and we're gonna move on to reports of committees. There are two ad hoc committees which I don't believe have met yet. And then a policy committee which also has not met yet. So I think the first meetings of those new committees is going to be the coming month. So we'll get some reports next month. One super minor little note is that I know that I'm on the board reporting ad hoc committee. And I don't know, maybe it's my name and your name that's transposed, or maybe we're both on it, I'm not sure, but
I think we're both on it.
okay, then we're both on it.
Okay, make sure to make that correction.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item 6, which is Zulika's report.
Okay, just two things I really wanna bring out. One is pertaining to the finance department. We've been working with BDO to look at the books, and we found out that we had some management fees, excuse me, and bookkeeping fees for Section 8 that had not been collected going back to 2020. We collected 2023, which was $1.1 million. Yes, they have not been collected properly. And we will be doing 2020, 21, and 22. Each one should at least be $1 million. I'll let you know as we finish that. And this is the method that we'll use going forward to make sure that the agency collects its proper monies. Also, in looking through the audits, we discovered that RAD accounts for $4.5 million were marked as restricted. Those are not restricted funds, they're unrestricted. And so that money is now free for us to use for operations for the agency. It's because of accounting brief number 22 and PIH notice 2019-23. We are doing a thorough investigation of all of the audits to make sure that our funds are reflected properly. And so that if it is something that the agency is supposed to use or restricted, we make sure that those requirements are met. And this is how we discovered these funds that have been sitting there that we are now recapturing. The only other thing is for development, we are working with a consultant and we're making some progress. We'll have more information at the April meeting for the right of first refusal on 3 properties. But we will have all the information at the April meeting to discuss with the board for the next steps. And that's it for my report.
Questions from commissioners?
Wow. That's really amazing to be able to recoup some of those funds.
Yeah, that's sort of, yeah, err in your favor and you collect $200 or whatever, but. So tell me more, I mean, just tell me more about the 1.3.
The 1.1. Oh, for section 8.
What year was that? And then.
That was for 2023. So section 8, you get admin money and you get HAP funds on your budget authority. Housing authorities are allowed to charge management and bookkeeping fees. Management fees can go up to $12.50. Bookkeeping fees can go to $7.50. For some reason here, they were not collecting those fees. They were only doing 1% of the overall budget authority. And so we went back, we checked the FDS and the REACT system just to make sure that it wasn't collected. It was not. And so that's why we're going all the way back to 2020 to collect those funds. So each year we'll take whatever the total funds that came in for admin and HAP and do that collection to true it up to bring the agency where we need to be.
And you think it should be about $1 million a year?
And 2019 was a little skeptical, but we want to err on the side of caution. The FDS was not completely reflective of how we cannot understand the methodology that they use. So it's better to just leave it the way that it previously reported and do the years that we know that we can make those adjustments. So that'll be 2020, 21, 22, and 23. And then of course, we're gonna do it moving forward for the 24.
Great. I mean, so we just came into like $4.5 million, $4 million.
Yep, really angry because you got the $4 million on there too.
Wow.
Look, are you welcome? Mike, they say about as well, Mike helped out a lot with this.
You know, it's having the experts help us.
Yeah, no.
So they flagged it. It says, hey, we're really.
But no, he being too modest. We the one really flagged because the old model was only taking 1%. And so they supposed to take, you're supposed to take management and bookkeeping fees. And so then we acquired with BDO to go back and help. And so they were instrumental in doing it, but no, it was noticed here. So Mike, don't be so bashful because me and Mike was talking about it, how you're supposed to collect the fees.
That's great. The RAD money, I'm curious, is that like operating money like at the asset level that you're freeing up, or is there some other like?
There's no
subsidy?
restrictions on it. It's operating money that we can use for those properties or additional affordable housing.
So it's kind of like property level money you can distribute.
$4.5 million. Previously, they had it as restricted funds. I don't know why we couldn't find it in the sources and uses or anything like that. I think it was just a mistake from a verbal, probably conversation that happened during the conversion. Because we have found other stuff like that where it was said to be one thing and nobody really looked at the document. And so.
That money has just been sitting in like property level operating accounts.
It was in a restricted account. They didn't touch it.
Just to.
Yep.
And what were we gonna use it for? It was restricted for what? For what purpose, I guess?
We don't even know. It just was in a restricted account. And they said it was restricted for the RAD properties. But it wasn't clear. That's how all of it got started to kind of go like,
What is that?
what is this?
Yeah.
You know? And so, according to the PIH notice that was referenced in that accounting brief, that money should have never been restricted. We already talked to the auditors and everything to make the adjustment, and so we can use it for operations.
Wow. Well, you guys earned your.
So it was pulling out 20s out of a person.
Yeah, we are on the money, so.
It's too bad that union contract already got signed. Okay, let's see, was there anything else on the?
Not on my report unless it's something that somebody want me to talk about a little more. But I just really wanted to bring that out.
Okay,
That's good.
that's fantastic. Okay. The next item is new business, item 7. And there are 4 resolutions. We're gonna start with the first resolution, which is resolution 3104. PHA certification of compliance with the 2024 agency annual plan and related regulations.
Now, this is the resolution that we need signed to submit the annual plan to HUD. I previously sent out drafts for everybody to review, plus we sent it out to Monterey County, the city of Salinas, the city of Monterey, and the city of Seaside. Because all of them have to certify and sign off on it, which they did. And we had our resident meeting on March the 20th. We had a public hearing on March 21st. And all of those activities have occurred. We did not have to make any adjustments to the plan, so we just need the board to certify so that we can send it in. And basically, the plan just say what we doing now and what we looking for doing in the future. So it had all of our activities now, plus a couple of captions that show that we looking toward working on development to put more affordable housing.
Yeah, it seemed to map onto, you know, a lot of the conversations that we've had at the retreat, et cetera. Anybody have any questions in reading through the annual plan?
Did any of the other agencies have any comments or feedback? Those that were
No, they didn't really
signing
have any
up?
comments this year. They liked the plan as it was. Last year, we had a couple of comments, but we made adjustments this year because of those, so no, ma'am.
Good.
I think I'm actually supposed to ask for public comment first. So are there any comments from the public on this resolution relating to the annual plan? Okay, hearing none, any other comments or questions from commissioners?
No.
Okay, then we will take a vote on it.
Oh, you didn't get a motion.
Oh, a motion, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
for
do
resolution 3104.
we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Ballesteros and seconded by Commissioner Roscoe, and now we'll take a vote.
Okay, Chair Hans Bluder,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kathleen Belliston,
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
Yes,
and Commissioner Maria Orozco.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the vote.
Okay, we're gonna move on to resolution 3105. Resolution to update the administrative plan by preference addition.
Okay, earlier, last year, we took out all the preferences because we had so many that it convoluted the waiting list process. The only reason that we're adding this addition, we're asking for this addition. Chispa received the RFP for some project-based vouchers back in 2021 for 15 units. 2 of the units are 1 bedrooms, and they received funds under the Joe Cerna Junior Farm Worker Housing Grant Program. So to stay in those 2 units, you have to have agricultural preference. At the time of the award, this was known, but the preference was not added to the waiting list. And now that they're actively taking applicant, it has become a very cumbersome process for them and all the staff. Plus, it's very discouraging for the community because we get clients ready that are eligible, but because they don't meet that preference, because we don't have it in place, they go and they are turned down for the units. So if we can add this preference specifically just to this waiting list, not the entire program, just this one waiting list for the Alfred Diaz apartment complex, commonly known as East Garrison, it would allow us to screen the applicants just for the 1 bedrooms. And that way we can go ahead and get the people housed, stop having all the additional work on both agencies, and most importantly, stop discouraging our applicants because we don't have a preference there and getting their hopes up for housing.
Comments or questions or comments rather from the public on this one? Okay, hearing none, comments, questions?
So this is just gonna streamline that process.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And it'll be just for this one project.
And 1 bedroom.
Yeah, and just for the 1 bedroom units.
I had noted it down, but you explained it, so you answered my question.
Yeah, I would say that like in general, I liked what, you know, Tori, our previous interim ED had done with just kind of clearing all the clutter out of this and streamlining it. And so initially I was like, oh, but then the fact that we're really just cleaning up something that should have been built into the property level.
It should have been back in 2021 when they did the RFP.
Yeah, and it's really confined to just
Yeah,
this one
just
property,
this
just
one.
1 bedroom.
Correct, and if you wouldn't mind me adding to that, the only other alternative would have been even more cumbersome. We would have had to open the waiting list, keep it open and accept owner referrals, which for the sake of time, for a 1 bedroom, well, for 2 1 bedroom units, this would be the
It
fastest
would be
way.
too much of a process, and to me, it was, without this preference, you're endangering of violating the integrity of the waiting list. And plus, most importantly, when a person applies, we have to process their application. So we have to send them if they're eligible. Once they go there, we sent 10 people, the housing authorities vetted them, they think they're gonna get the unit, and then because they don't have this preference, they all get turned down.
Yeah.
That's very disheartening, and I don't think that's something we wanna do to the community.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think as long as we just keep in mind that it's not,
Oh, no,
we're not trying to
just
clutter
this
this thing up
one.
with these preferences, then yeah.
No, cause I really like not having them. Yeah, it's just this one.
Okay. Any other comments on this one?
Yeah. I move that we approve resolution 3106.
Is there a second? I seconded
I thought it was
it.
3105.
It's 3105.
Oh, 3105, sorry, I got ahead of myself.
I second 3105.
Okay. Chair Hans Bluder,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kathleen Bellis-Starros.
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
yes,
Commissioner Maria Erosa.
Yes.
That concludes the vote.
Okay, and this is resolution 3106, resolution for approval to award HACM an RFP for PDM general contract services to Ausonio Incorporated.
Yeah, so back in December, we executed resolution 3101 to have a collaboration between the Housing Authority and Monterey County Behavioral Health for the Bridge Housing Funds. The funds were awarded. In that package, we received $2.8 million to rehab Pablo, I'm gonna say it right, Pablo Del Mar. So we immediately issued out the RFP. We did get some responses. This was the most responsible bidder. We'd like to have permission to go ahead and authorize this contract so that we can stay on the timeline we have with the grant funding. After looking at the packages of everyone that came in, I think even more than this being the most responsive bidder, this seems to be the most attractive of the bids because it came in at 2 million. We have 2.8. There are other things that's gonna have to be did. Some of that money will be coming to help them because our maintenance people will do it. But we do leave potential monies for, change orders or things of that nature if other items have to be added. So I strongly suggest that we go ahead with this particular resolution and grant this RFP to Ausonio Incorporated.
Okay, comments from the public on this resolution? Okay, comments from commissioners? So Lee, could you just describe kind of the process for us of just, how you.
How to select your
Yeah,
choice.
exactly, what you're looking at.
Well, we do a scope of work for the property, or we get a CNA, so we did that. We used that to tailor the repairs that were needed. We put that in the grant and then we use that for the scope of work for the bid. So the procurement department puts the bid together, they put it out, it's in the papers, it's on the site. You have 30 to 60 days depending on it to respond back. Once the responses come back, a committee is formed. And the committee for this one was the finance director, the project manager, the procurement staff, the contracts manager, and the property manager and asset manager. That way you have every level of property interaction looking at the bid so that we can get the most responsible bidder. Once they do that, they get a score sheet and score it on the scope of work that was outlined in the bid. And then they make a recommendation to me. I look at the recommendation. If I think it's good, I pass it on to the board so that we can make the recommendation to try to get the work accomplished. Once I looked through the packet, I did agree that this is the most responsible bidder. I thought they had the best package, and I do feel like that we'll get the work did on time, which is really important when you're dealing with contractors because of their past performance with other larger agencies. And again, this is not our money, this is money we got through the grant. So this is an opportunity for us to start rehab at that site. It's not gonna be a complete rehab, but it will be a major basin.
Yeah. Okay, any commissioners caring to make a motion on this one?
I will make a motion for resolution 3106.
Second?
I'll second it,
Okay, it has been, the motion has been made by Commissioner Ballesteros and seconded by Commissioner Goodwin. Roll call, please.
Okay, Chair Hans Bluder,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kathleen Bellis-Starros.
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin
yes,
and Commissioner Maria Erosa.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the roll call vote.
Okay, and the last resolution is relating to landscaping contract. Resolution 3107, resolution for approval to award IFB number 72023 grounds maintenance contract services to La Higuera Landscape.
This one is very interesting because this is the second time we had to open this up. The current vendor increased their price dramatically to a point that we really can't barely afford the services. That's what prompted this to go out for bid. When we did the first bids, all of the bids came back too high. It was 500,000, 300,000, and this was just for a year. So we kind of readjusted the bid a little, put it back out, got some more modified proposals, and the bid was awarded. Well, it's hoping to be awarded. So the recommendation committee scored it. They looked at a lot of factors. The people even went out on site to see, so they could better understand what they was bidding on. And came back and they made the suggestion that, what's their name? You said it so eloquently, huh? What is it?
La Higuera.
La Higuera, I gotta start talking Spanish, okay? That, they be awarded the bid. They have a lot of experience. They got over 20 years, in the business. It's a local family business, which I think is important because we have a lot of government funds and I think we need to invest that in the community here as much as we possibly can. And so the new cost would be $15,275 a month, which would equal up to $183,000 a year, which is a very good price for all of the properties and services that we're gonna have. And, this is a 3-year term.
How many properties have we got?
Oh, how many properties is there?
We were talking about it earlier, now about 23.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
yeah.
Just an interesting note that originally they doubled.
Oh, yeah.
It was 175 going to 300.
Yeah.
So to be able to introduce the bid and getting out to good competition,
Yeah, sure.
saved us a lot of money.
No, the committee worked really hard on it.
Any comments from the public on this resolution? Okay, hearing none, any additional comments or questions from commissioners?
No.
Okay, anyone caring to make a motion on the resolution?
I move that we approve resolution 3107.
And is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, so we've got a motion from Commissioner Roscoe to approve the resolution and a second from Commissioner Ballesteros. Roll call, please.
Okay, Chair Hans Buder,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kathleen Bellastaro.
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
yes,
Commissioner Maria Rostow.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the roll call vote.
Okay, and with that, we're gonna move to item 8, which is information and our departmental reports. We're gonna start with the human resources report. Just as a reminder for anyone who's watching, we have moved to streamline this. Everything's in the board packet. And so, if there are changes or things that department heads are following up on since the last meeting, kind of that's an opportunity to talk about those things, but we're moving away from kind of summarizing what's in the report that we read. So with that, I guess, is there anything that you had on the HR?
I don't have any questions. James, I didn't think that you had any additions at this time.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
I would just say that I really liked the team photo.
Yeah.
Made me feel like I wanted to be in the photo. It seemed really cool. Any other questions or comments? On
I was just
the
gonna
HR
comment on that also in the report. I just, the training of the pictures, it kind of gives you, we hear about training, but when you actually see people sitting at the table or doing certain activities.
Yeah.
Good report, by the way.
I also appreciated, I'm trying to get to the right page, but I appreciated the workers' comp. I feel like that was kind of a new addition here.
That change was made at the request of previous meetings to show
Yeah.
the number of claims in the years and where we were at on it.
Yeah, the only question I had was. So for example, it says property management. Number of claims per year, 3 in 2023, and then it says claim status, open medical. So like, if there's 3 claims listed on that row. And it says open medical, what do we mean by that? That they're all open?
Yeah, so they're all open right now with medical treatments that they're receiving.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have a comment. I just wanted to say kudos to having that employee appreciation day. Cause I think when you do that, you acknowledge all the employees, you put your kind of like putting work into your employees, you know, you build up to the teamwork that they're all working and they get to have, you know, interact. They get to have some food, they get to be recognized and that builds up their self-worth. So I just wanna say kudos to all of you for
And I
doing
wish
that.
you were here during the photo shoot, because the camaraderie with the teams, and as much as they were kind of like, no, I don't want to take the group pictures, they actually chose to take group pictures. Together, so it was really neat to actually see them kind of get together and collaborate with one another.
yeah, everybody looks great too.
Yeah.
Dress
But we
great.
will have a makeup day for the commissioners, who were not able to come, so that you will be able to take a look.
Well, I did come, but they had already left.
Yeah.
I took out my phone and.
Okay, any other comments on the HR report?
Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to the finance reports. Any things you want to highlight here?
Well, we did have a question, Mike, I think you should kind of go over some of the highlights, and this is a little different from what we normally see for finance, kind of testing the waters. So after you really get a chance to digest it, you know, maybe if you guys could give us some feedback. One thing that I wanted to do, but I didn't, you normally get all those reports out of Yarden. The sheet is really a summary of all of that, so I didn't know if you still wanted that, so just kind of think about it when you're going through it. But Mike, if you'd like to touch on some of your highlights.
So, given the feedback that I had received, I tried to really make the presentation cleaner. So the table, after there was the normal verbiage at the beginning, but important. The table shows your profit and loss, performance, separating HACM from HDC with total entity. So just, I made it, so obviously I don't. I just thought it was easier to read.
But it's still, like I say, a work in progress, because we really want to get something that show every property, so you can see every property and program where it's at. But this is just some of the things that we kind of teetering around with. I only have one comment on the report. I didn't know if Mike was gonna say it or not. When you look under HECM expenses, you'll see where it say the total expenses year to date are 5.7 million over budget. Yeah, that's specifically for the HCV program, and that's over the projected budget. But we have issued so many vouchers, free Jonathan, that
We're gonna get to that,
that we went over the money that they had already allocated to send us, but it's not money the agency had to pay. We'll get it out of our hood here reserves and our new budget authority.
Yeah.
But that was it. I just had to pitch one time.
Yeah, questions and comments on the finance report. I think the thing that I appreciated was the narrative aligned to line items.
Yeah.
I found that was a lot clearer. So obviously we have a whole committee on
Mhm.
board report, so we don't have to get too much into that, but I would just say that that was helpful for me. I had a question on here when I was going through this, which is one of my standard questions, which was if we had to free up cash right now, how much could you free up? And sounds like $8 million.
Yeah.
So that sounds good.
We found it under the rug.
So what I wanted to spend a little bit of time on here was on page is this, page 69, just after the balance sheet. year-to-date performance summary for agency. I just wanna make sure that I'm reading it right. So it's basically like a property level summary. Of the income statement for these different properties, and so we've got revenue minus expenses. One question I had was, what was the other column?
I segregated it out because like if you had maybe interest payments or amortization, that type of thing, I kept it in the other column versus
Got it,
more, variable expenses that would be.
kind of like below the line. And then the net bottom line, I guess before like non-cash expenses like depreciation.
Right.
The one that I'm probably looking at is net bottom line, like how does our cash actually change? And the question that I had was like, when you look at this, the thing that kind of pops out to you is it would appear that there's a bunch of properties that are negatively cash flowing.
That is correct.
And so like a lot of, and my question was just kind of like, how does that work? I guess some of them, if they're not in like a partnership, like a LIHTC structure or something. Are we basically just cross subsidizing from other properties? Like, how does it work if you're losing $1 million a year on a property?
The properties that are losing the money, unfortunately, the agencies, because we have several pots of money. So we have non-federal money, we have federal money, and then we have the money like that we get for the agency from Section 8 and other programs. This is the true purpose of the interfund. When these properties run short, we use that interfund account to pay whatever is owed for them, and they supposed to pay us back. So it's supposed to wash out. But what me and Mike have been doing is we looking at property for property to see why they're losing the money. And then putting in different strategies to make it where the property at least break even or make a profit. So for example, the RAD properties. The RAD rents were set when you did your initial conversion, and for some reason they set them at a really low rent. The rents are like $700, something like that, so the property will never make enough money to sustain itself. So actually Nora and I are working on what's called a market to markup program for RAD, where we'll get one chance to send in a rent analysis to show why we need to increase the rents. And then after that, every year we'll just have a regular OCAP. So we're working on that now. That would be the solution for those properties. Some of the other properties, they're tax credit properties. So they have a tax credit cap and other things that was put in place. And really, a lot of the properties, they never asked for rent increases. Like Rippling River, it was being managed by John Stewart. They didn't ask for a rent increase for like the last 3 years. So things like that, managerial things are what's causing these problems at these properties. So again, we just making plans property per property, because each one have a different makeup and configurations.
Yeah.
And so we hope to start seeing some drastic changes in a lot of that.
What about like One Parkside? That's obviously like a newer deal. Is that just like, I mean, we were done with the lease up before the beginning of this year, right? So how is that one? Yes.
That one, we really been looking into that. I think it's partly to do with the project-based vouchers. Cause there was so many changes that the staff didn't keep up with all the changes. And so it was a lot of lost income in there. And then other than that, it's just the payments that have to go out. But that's one of the ones that we really digging into, because personally, I don't see how a brand new property
Yeah, how can you be sure?
can lose money already as soon as you open the door.
Yeah.
I know they had a lot of changes. Yeah, and it was a lot of issues with them in the previous Section 8 for the changes. So I think it's a lot of money out there that we're gonna end up recapturing, but that's something that we're working on with the development team.
Yeah, and how about the river?
Rippling River?
Yeah.
It's coming along great, huh? We having so much fun out there. We haven't got any complaints lately.
Yeah, but the $1 million, what about that? I mean, what does that stem from?
They never got rent increases. They didn't get rent increases for the last 3 years out there, and they have a lot of expenses on that property. Plus, they got a loan that's coming up due that me and Nora in negotiations with the bank now to try to either get an extension or refinance it with somebody else.
Yeah.
It just, I hate to kind of put it like this, but it just wasn't managed properly. All of the different items were not brought to the board's attention or the attention of executive management, and so now it's a buildup. And so with that buildup, that's why we have all these expenses.
So if, I wanna make sure that I'm getting it right, but basically, if I take this list of properties before this gray line, and everything else below that is more like overhead,
Mhm.
in section 8. On the basically like on the physical assets,
Mhm.
we're losing like $9.2 million a year, so.
Yep.
Wow,
And PDM was losing, $400,000 a year, every year by itself.
Yeah.
But see, what it is, some of these properties were built to lose money at a certain point, but that's when management supposed to step in and make the changes, cause it's a model set by HUD.
Yeah.
And with the different transitions and things like that, it just hasn't occurred, so we're playing catch up now to get it done. Cause you know, with the tax credit properties at the year 11, most of the time they exit, you re-syndicate, you do something, but none of these things had happened, and so it just built up over the last few years. Then too, you got a lot of staff that's been on these properties 35 years, so they've been getting 4-5% increases every year, but the performance hadn't really been aligning with it, but they hadn't been collecting the rent, and it's just, there's a lot to look at to kind of figure out what's the best way to really solve the problem. But it is something that's at the forefront of our meetings, and we are working on it.
yeah, I mean, it's very helpful to see it property by property, and kudos to you for. I think sunshine is the best perspective, right?
Yeah, we wanna make sure we really transparent.
But again, like, just so that I'm clear here, we've got. I'm down on page 77 of the income statement. The actual authority income statement. And over like the trailing 12, we've got like $73 million of revenue and $70 million of expenses, I guess, before interest and stuff, so, around there. The $9 million, the $9 billion, the negative $9 million from the property level. I don't know if you wanna do it, or maybe Mike, whoever, can you just walk me through like how that flows through this income statement? Like, where is that showing up here? I do see like tenant rents and tenant subsidies. But how does that roll up here?
Mike, can you explain where is that on the income statement? On page 76, what line items, cause it's kind of spread out through some of the different line items. But see, when you look at the agency total, it's kind of hidden. So it's in there, but because we have so much section 8 money, because we have so much development money, you just look at the total, you just really seeing the absorption of it. But Mike, if you could kind of tell them some of the lines that are shown, but that's reflected.
I'm trying to get on the same page that you are. I don't have any page numbers on.
Oh, yeah. It's page 1 of 13 when you get to like the.
There's one,
Oh, they all say page 1 of 13.
yeah, there's one that says Housing Authority, which is the 12-month.
Yes.
That's the one.
Goes left to right and across the page. So that's kind of a nice way of looking at things. So we've got.
Are they included in this?
What's that?
Are the property level stuff is included in this or not?
No, I mean, so you have certain properties that are included in the HACM total. And then you have a whole bunch of LPs that are excluded. So when you're looking at this one, the one you're referring to first, there are some of these that are really a part of the HACM total, okay? But I chose to present it this way so that you could see all the, like you said, the assets.
Yeah.
And whether or not we've chosen to present them in the board package in a particular manner. There is a particular manner, there's a tree of, these things get added up and that's this number. The way the board looks at and approves budgets, in that process, you're only looking at a subset of this page. You're looking at section 8, you're looking at all the overhead departments, and you're looking at some of the properties. That's in that total. A lot of these properties are excluded from that total. And so you'll never see them unless I do this for you.
Because they're HDC properties or?
Well, they're properties that we manage, but we don't own.
Yeah.
They're
Oh, I see what you're
LPs,
saying.
right?
But the properties, all those properties on there are properties that we own,
Not
not
necessarily.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Got it.
They're ones that we either own or manage.
So that would be, yeah, that'd be a helpful thing to add to that, but I guess my question is, at least there's at least some of those properties that we are shelling out like for. And I just wanna know like what line items, like, can I look to?
You would have to look at the health and the HDC at the same time, cause under health, you'll see like PDM, King City Migrant, you know, all of that. But then when you look at HDC, then that's when you'll see like the rippling rivers and the tiny villages and all of that stuff. So really, this will be like you'll have to have two of them, one that might.
Let me just make a suggestion. Behind every one of these, there is a P&L balance sheet and so forth. And we keep them archived in a tool that we call, you may be familiar with it, Smart Sheets. This is kind of a new tool on the market. And it's kind of like Smart Excel in a way. And so for every one of these, that full P&L exists and balance sheet. And we're storing them, archiving them in their own little spot. So I go in and I pull out these numbers from those respective financial statements.
Yeah.
And just put them on here for your presentation. Now, if you want to know what's behind, why is this losing money? All I'd have to do is literally email you whichever property you said you were interested in, and you would get the P&L balance sheet and so forth. So for me to be able to say to you exactly which elements, I'd want to go back to those. And, if you said to me, Mike, I'd like to know what's driving that $9 million loss, I could go back into them and do that level of line by line analysis. There's no hidden secrets. It's all right there.
Yeah, I don't know that that's exactly my question. My question is more like if we're cutting $1 million check to Rippling River,
Where is it coming from?
where is it coming from?
So that's why I say, you'll have to have two of them, because some of the properties are owned by HDC. So we'll have to look at HDC balance sheet and income statement, and then you'll see the reflection of those properties where those losses are. And then the other ones are under HECM, so they are included in those tenant revenues, tenant subsidies. It's kind of split off. And maybe what we can do for the next meeting is put something together so you can see which properties are with which, and then give a sheet on both of them. And then when you put that together, you'll see the 9 million, but it might be 4 million that HECM's doing and 4 million on HDC. But now this is the other thing about it. Even though the properties that are owned by HDC and HDC is carrying their loss, HECM carries the loss for HDC. So either way it goes, it's still the housing authority that ends up putting the bill. So that's why we need to really.
Well, that's, I think as a commissioner, the thing that I'm most interested in is really being able to understand and articulate, okay, there's whatever, it's $9 million, that's a deficit. Some of those are properties that we don't own, so that doesn't count towards that. So there's some true number, which we have, of properties that either HDC owns or we own. And that's some number of presumably millions of dollars.
This could be split between the ones that we own and the ones that we don't. And that segregation gives you a sense of, okay.
Totally.
Yeah. I think
And then at that point, so it's like, okay, it's $5 million or something, or $6 million, or who knows? And then what I'm interested in is what consistent revenue source is cross-subsidizing those things, right?
The administrative funds for HECM.
Which is
Non-federal.
exactly, which is like how much total per year?
Yeah, well, that's the number that we adjusting, because before that number was running low, because they weren't collecting all the money, just like they weren't collecting them from Section 8.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like that whenever a problem was at a property, they just paid for it out of whatever funds was still unfederal funds, unrestricted for HECM,
Yeah.
so that property could continue. And that's what's caused the agency to be at a point now where we're facing a shortfall. We're trying to recoup funds. So, but all that come from the administrative funds that we have.
Mhm.
So all the management, bookkeeping fees, sometimes the developer fees that we have received, they have to be used to offset these for whichever entity is the owner so that the property can continue.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, like sometimes like an income statement. It can obscure more than it clarifies from like a managerial perspective and, you know, what I'm just trying to get my arms around is, you know. Where are we on like on a kind of a go forward basis in terms of, you know. The fees that we're given to just operate as a housing authority, and then what's the amount that we have to cover as an actual deficit for properties? And how do those two things compare?
We can do that because we can easily split it up. We'll do that 2 different sheets, so maybe we can make one sheet with 2 different areas on there to show. But again, those properties unfortunately have been eaten into the unrestricted funds that the agency have.
Yeah.
Because we had to keep them afloat. And this is normal for a lot of properties to hit a point like this. The only difference in being here is that there's usually a plan. So that it's like, when we get to year 10, we finna start looking for this. So soon as year 11 hit, we can do this. And that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're working on now to try to.
Well, again, and this is why these reports matter so much, because it was really helpful, like, to see that on a single page. You know, and then I will, you know, I guess it's embarrassing to say, I think without seeing something like that on a single page, it's. You haven't had the whole story, and I guess I just sort of assumed that net, we were pretty close to breaking even, and we're, you know, it doesn't seem like we are, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Well, we're not gonna put a lock on the door, but we need to make some improvements.
yeah, no, that's really helpful.
so I think that when the new director of properties is here, you know, and with our asset manager, you know, they can, and with the help of finance, there's literally each of these major, you know, start with the hardest ones first. There just needs to be, in essence, an operational audit to each property.
Like you said, a plan for each
Yeah.
one.
And just approach it as each are separate little businesses.
Exactly.
What's broken, what's working, what's not. And I think,
And this is a great example of why, like, what's in this board packet
Mhm.
matters so much, because you can't tell me if this report wasn't here for the past like X number of years, that people wouldn't have said, hey, it's just what's in front of your face, you know? Any other questions on the finance report?
No.
We're gonna move on to the property management report. So if there's anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, I got 2 comments on the property management report. One, property management, Sandra. You guys really need to work with maintenance because the work orders are ranging from 30 to 189 days. That is ridiculous. That is one of the reasons why we losing money, because things are not getting fixed in a timely manner. The units are not getting occupied in a timely manner. So we'll need to, you know, come up with some type of plan to make sure that that's handled better. And that we get our time down. The goal is to actually be at 7 days for a vacancy. And and one thing I saw here too, emergency work orders, they're supposed to be due in 24 hours, but it was one of them had like 100 and some days. I'm hoping that that's mislabeling because those are audit matters. And that was my comment, and I got one question. Sandra, what is it's for vacant units, what is out of occupancy?
When they're going through that mini rehab, our FLCs are going out of occupancy units.
Like a minute.
Like a mini rehab, our FLCs 904 and 906, they're going through, when they vacate, they go with remodeling rehab, cabinets, flooring.
Oh, okay. So, cause I was.
They're offline.
All right, cause your numbers in one adding up and I didn't know what y'all, sometimes up here they use different terminology, but those I had to ask them. But we need to improve on that too, and I think that's tied back to the work orders. But other than that, I thought the report was very well done. I like the additional information on the waiting list and the work orders. I think that's really helpful. But the average times is just not acceptable for these properties.
Comments? Yeah, I think you preempted what I was gonna say, which was, you know, I think this is why we've been asking for this for the past, you know, few meetings.
To get a better picture of.
Yeah, and then you look at it,
Yeah.
you're like, and this I think is also another reason, again, the common theme here is it comes back to like the data, you know, which you don't measure. You can't manage what you don't measure, right? And so this is obviously something that we're gonna be focused on, and then, yeah, I mean. So, so,
I have a
Thanks.
question.
Yep.
So, on the work orders, you know, you said there's an emergency one, so is there a team to each property? You know, when it
It's a
comes,
maintenance person or a person's assigned to each property. The rules are, if you have an emergency and they have what constitutes an emergency, it has to be completed in 24 hours. Now, I haven't saw it on any audit findings, but when I looked at the work order report, that's why I said, hopefully that's a mislabeling or something, because it had emergency and it had like 115 days. Those will get us a tremendous audit findings and could compromise the properties once they come and do their reviews, because it's mandatory, no more than 24-hour turnaround.
I think the thing that's probably, you know, troubling about it is it's pervasive, right? Like it's across all the
Yeah,
properties
it's
as
all of
opposed to,
them.
you know, if there's one property that has a bunch of issues where you say, hey, we can fix this particular staffing issue or something.
Yeah, but it's across the board.
And I think this is the other reason, that's kind of where I was going, I lost my train of thought, was tenant surveys. You know, we were talking about board
Yes.
retreat about trying to get tenant surveys. I also guarantee that this would have shown up in a tenant survey and you know, there's probably other things that show up in a tenant survey, so.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, like
Definitely.
sunshine's the best disinfectant, we're gonna put it out here and I guarantee these numbers are gonna go down,
Oh, yeah.
so. Okay, if there's no other comments, we're gonna move on to the development report.
I didn't have any questions, Laura. I thought you did a fantastic job putting it together, but if anybody else have questions or comments?
I just, on Division Street, what is there a,
There's a parcel that's owned by the city of Salinas, and we've been in conversation with them.
good,
But we have an additional ask to them, but they haven't come back to us on it. Those
my project,
conversations are still occurring.
before I retired, so.
We're still working on it.
Division Street, okay, well. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, it's been a while, okay.
Okay, if there are no other comments. We're gonna move on to item 8E, which is the housing program.
Greetings,
I'm sorry. Look, let me make a note. But I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I do have two comments for you. So, one, I do like how you changed the report, but I think you need to, put back on there the grand total. Cause I know I like to see the grand total.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the one I
like
was.
the 39, the 38, whatever, so we gonna put that back on there, but I did add it up and it's 3,917 at the moment. Other than that, this really is the VMS report. I would like, Jonathan, for you to talk about the voucher success rate, which is not fantastic. And what are your plans to do about your eligibility team to get utilization up? Because we are getting vouchers out, but not at the rate that we need to.
Correct.
So if you could expound on that.
Before you get into that, can you just point to the success rate?
page 109.
Yeah, mine 109. Success rate, is that like, it's not a percentage,
I didn't put a percentage, no.
it's just a number,
Correct.
the number, like that's the number that leads up per month.
So that's why the explanation needs to be made. So in January, that number 1 is the number of vouchers that were issued in the month of January and leased up in the month of January. Typically, what I've found, since I've been here is we're looking at greater than 60 days before initial lease up, from issuance to initial lease up. For February, it was 2 that were issued either in January or February that were leased up.
It's not clear to me that like tracking how many are leased up in the first 30 days is gonna be like our best metric.
That's how they do the success rate.
That's an industry standard, and the idea is that you get to see how many extensions are necessary. So that would inform our decision as to whether our initial voucher issuance time should be, instead of 60 days, 90 days.
But this is 30 days, right?
This is based on a 30-day rolling total. It's just the beginning of it, and so it's going to change drastically over the next few months.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wanted to put it out there from the jump so you can see where we are. That doesn't mean that that's all we leased up, because if you look at the
You did 174,
Right.
right?
we did 174 in January and February total. But some of those were greater than 60 days, greater than 90 days.
And see, that's why I asked them about eligibility, because last year we actually got it where everybody was being leased up in the first 60 days. I did a report one time and most of the people was being leased up in 30 days, but unfortunately, our eligibility department has not stayed on track. And so this is a great indicator of the fact of how they are putting more time into how they manage the voucher issuance. It's not the clients that are causing this lag, it's the processes.
And there are 2 things that will improve it. One, since generating this report for the board, I have personally gone down and changed the workflows for the team, which has had a little marked improvement, but that it's not where I want it to be. I foresee within the next week or so, performance improvement plans. I also plan on implementing more streamlined processes. For example, there was a checklist that they were going through. And the checklist itself was asking for stuff that HUD does not require. And so we want to streamline those processes. And then the third thing is the Rent Cafe. It's going to automate a lot of the information that we're collecting to speed up what's going on. But still, based upon the numbers that I'm seeing, there needs to be some changes, and we've started implementing those.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just, the thing that just strikes me is presumably if they had the same processes,
Mhm.
you know. So is it
They-
just the fact that you're in there?
I'm gonna
Cracking the
just
whip.
be completely honest, the Section 8 department, I really was cracking the whip on them and overseeing them almost to a level of micromanaging. But once Jonathan came on board, you know, he's the director, so I stood back and hoped that they would keep those processes
Yeah.
going. And they fell back into their old processing ways, and that's why his numbers are low, and so we had a conversation about.
Process is actually different from when you were kind
They
of,
went back to the old way.
If I may,
Really?
but it's, when I first came, Zalika and I had almost a philosophical disagreement
Mhm.
as to, she told me exactly what she did and I got it. I was like, I shouldn't have to be right there on someone for them to effectively do the job. I have since apologized. In the sense that that's exactly what I have to do. But that's not, to me, a sustainable management strategy, and that's why we're putting in places the people management and the processes management side of things. I can't take credit for Rent Cafe, that's Zalika's thing, but we have seen what it's capable of doing. The last couple of weeks a couple of weeks ago. I am actively working with the team to get everything customized for the housing authority here. And I anticipate, once we get started, we should see a rapid uptick in lease ups. We're gonna also go back to a couple of the mass briefing, mass voucher issuance events that we did last year, prior
And
to me.
open a new wait list.
Yes, prior to me getting here, so we could kind of tackle the bear.
And see,
Together.
Jonathan, I'm gonna tell you this, you know, we're in the board meeting, but we're all family. Me and Hans love HCB and we have these outside bets going on. Jonathan, I can't lose my bet with Hans, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was actually trying to pull up the old numbers. I agree with you if that's what you were saying, like being able to track how many vouchers we issued and leased up over time, I think is a helpful thing for us to track. Cause at one point we were getting up into the upper hundreds, upper hundreds. So yeah, so that's, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, 2 weeks ago, was it? A little bit, maybe, well, now it's probably 3 weeks ago. I sat the eligibility staff down and the expectation we should be, based off of the workflows that I developed, was within a month, they should be issuing 168, I believe the number is, of new vouchers.
Yeah.
That's still not enough. My goal is to get us above the 4,000, close to 5,000 utilization. And this is simply not sustainable to get to that level. So we are aware of the issues that are present, and we're actively working to correct it.
And I do think it's worth too saying the program had went through a lot of changes, but it have had a lot of successes. We still on the HUD watch list, but only for utilization. Everything else that we had to accomplish has been accomplished, but we will remain on that list until we get our utilization up. And so that's another reason why we're pushing it so hard, so that we can come off of that. Because once we come off, maybe we can get some new vouchers, you know, so that we can help even more people. And there's really no reason for us to be on there.
Well, you know, like the thing I was gonna say, like one of our your greatest achievements over the past few months has been getting this number up from like 3,300 to 39 and change. And at one point, I don't know, it was something like 2,500 people or something, right, that have housing assistance that didn't before. And I tell that to people that I talk to, they're like, what are you doing on this board? And you know, they're like, how did that happen for years? And I just tell them, I don't know, mismanagement, right? I mean, like, is that, I mean, right, that's basically the answer, and so.
And a lot of manual processes.
Yeah, and so it's just, it feels like one that we just gotta continue that.
Yeah, the staff gotta keep that same momentum, because our number with people leaving, I think we end up housing like 800 and some people, but we service, I don't know, 2,000 or something, when you take out the people who left and all of that. And so the staff was working at a really high pace. Jonathan is completing his own board, and he's gotten used to the position and kind of learning the community. And so with the changes that he's thinking about making, I feel confident that we'll reach our goal, and I hope to exceed it and be closer to the 5,000 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the department needs so much oversight.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get strong, independent thinking people to take ownership of this, so that much oversight is not required and they can still achieve these goals. And so that's part of one of his goals to do as the new director.
If I could say something, prior being a public employee, a lot of times when you're an employee and somebody new comes on, sometimes some people don't know how to adapt to change. And sometimes they just need a little help, you know, and understanding. I think me working 30 years, I think I went through like 15 different bosses. But one of the things is enduring, and for them to be encouraged to persevere. And, you know, it's up to them, it's their choice if they're gonna meet those goals. It's up to them. It's an individual choice. And that's what I did, all these different bosses, supervisors that I had. And I just, I kept doing my work and kept performing and kept, if I needed to improve, you improve. So it just depends on the employee. They have to make that decision that they're gonna meet those goals. And all you can do, Jonathan, is just, and if you don't have to be, babysitting them, if it's in them, they just gotta they have to accept the challenge. Really is.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's difficult if you've been doing a process for so many years and then all of a sudden you have to change it. I experienced similar, experiences with some of my staff that I had been with for years, and all of a sudden we've got new processes, new forms to fill out but I do like the idea of you talked about a checklist and those things that you don't need to go through that isn't required. I know I had a similar process and it really streamlined the process. But, yeah, good luck.
Any other comments on the housing programs report?
I do want to add, because of the HACM summit that we went to and a training that I have for the staff for the information system that is replacing PIC is a cloud-based program called HIP, Housing Information Portal. And it's going to cause some major changes coming up within the next few months. Specifically, PIC will be offline. The current management information system from HUD will go offline forever in August. We are encouraged to process as far in advance as we can. And then from that point on, we will be going to the HIP system in time to go into the HACM system. So changes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am the face of change, but change is coming with or without me.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of changes that are going to take place. There's gonna be some growing pains. That's why I think that we have to manage the idea that change is happening and we will accept it or choose to do something else.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We are gonna move on to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioners that have some final comments tonight?
I'm gonna say congratulations to Christina Chavez. She was noted on the HR resource report of the HR report that she was an exemplary employee. So just wanna congratulate her.
The only thing that I wanted to say was I just wanted to apologize to everybody for being late. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to get here, so the next time I'll leave an hour and a half beforehand, so. Okay. We're gonna adjourn the meeting at 6:35 PM and Gabby, I guess we're gonna stay on this same one for HDC.
Correct.
Are we starting the HDC?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. The Monterey County Housing Authority Development Corporation, March 28th, 2024 at 6:36. Roll call,
Chair Francine Goodwin,
present.
Director Kathleen Bellastros,
Present?
Director Hans Buder,
Present.
Director Maria Roscoe.
Present.
That concludes the roll call because Vice Chair Yuri Anderson and Director Kevin Healy are absent.
Thank you. Comments from the public? Any? Gabby?
No one in the office and no one's raising their hand online.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda, the minutes approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on February 26, 2024.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, the roll call vote, Chair Francine Goodwin,
Yes,
Director Kathleen Bellastros,
Yes.
Director Hans Buder,
Yes.
and Director Maria Roscoe.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the roll call.
next is, director's comments.
I have none.
I have none.
I have none.
I have none. Thank you for a short meeting, though. That's my comment. Okay, so can we adjourn now?
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody has anything to say? Okay, adjournment at 6:38. And, I bid you a good evening.
Good
Thank
evening,
you, Francine. That was the fastest meeting.
That was almost a record.